Hello lovelies, and welcome to the July 2020, start again. Hello lovelies, and welcome to the July 2020 episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. My name is Leslie, and this is a podcast about knitting, crochet, spinning, weaving, anything yarn related from the south coast of England. Welcome everyone, whether you're a new or a returning viewer, thank you for being here. I record throughout the month, so you'll see different places, different backgrounds, hopefully a haircut, and I put them all together and upload at the end of the month, so that's the last weekend of the month there's a new episode. And welcome. It's called Not Quite Enough Yarn, despite the fact that I have 3 cupboards worth and various shelves, because although I have a lot, I rarely have enough for the same project to be made all out of the same yarn. I say rarely because the first 2 finished objects I'm going to show you today I do have enough yarn for. So I'm going off brand before I even start. But before I get on to those, a bit of housekeeping. Firstly, 2 makealongs. I'm involved in 2 makealongs. They're both year long. And the first is the Stash Mal 2020, which I'm co-hosting with the wonderful Barbara from the Flame and Fibre podcast. And it's basically making stuff from your stash. So the yarn had to be in your possession by the end of 2019, and the project had to be started from the beginning of 2020. If you need to buy yarn to finish something off, can still apply as long as the new yarn doesn't make up more than 50% of the total. The only exception to the must start at the beginning of the year is if you had a project that would have been in last year's Stash Mal but just didn't get finished on time. I would guess that as we're now sort of more than halfway through the year, probably that no longer applies, but I'm not going to be hard and fast on that one. So yes, anything from your stash, any project, any size, open to knitting, crochet, weaving, spinning, as long as it follows those criteria about when you possess the raw materials and when you made the project, you're in, basically. The prizes are drawn quarterly, and there is a chatter thread on Ravelry and a finished object thread on Ravelry. Finished object thread is no chatter, just post up a picture of your finished object, and it's 1 post per item. Obviously, please feel free to put a bit of description, what it is, what the yarn is, you know, just any sort of stuff about it. But you can also post that onto the chatter thread so that other people can come back to you with comments and observations and praise and thoughts and all those lovely things. Apologies if you can hear background noise. Our neighbours are having some building work done, so I hope it's not too loud. So that's the Stash Mal. Now, before I go any further, I realise that not everyone can use Ravelry at the moment. As I'm recording this, which is the 10th of July, I've just completed the survey. I am still hopeful that improvements will be made. I will make a decision by the end of the month as to whether to find an alternative route into the make-along for those who can't use Ravelry because of the change that was made to the site. I know some people are pushing their make-alongs over onto Instagram, but I'm also aware that not everyone is an Instagram user, so I'm trying to think of another way. The finished objects I don't anticipate too many problems because I have an email address that things could be sent to, and I could just add those into the drawer. It's the chatter thread that I'm stumbling over a bit. So thinking on that, I mean, I'm still really hopeful that the problems will get sorted out and that people will be able to carry on using Ravelry, but I am conscious that not everyone can. So I will keep you posted. By the end of this episode, you'll know what I'm doing about that. The other make-along that I'm involved in is with the lovely Kellyanne from the Yarn Tales by the Sea podcast, and that's the Ocean Mal. So again, it's open to all yarn crafts, and it's anything seaside or ocean inspired. So it can be ocean colours, it can be wave patterns, it could be a yarn name that is connected with the sea. If you can convince us that it's something to do with the sea, you're heartily encouraged to take part. Same means of entry at the moment, chatter thread and finished object thread on Ravelry. Now with all of the make-alongs that I'm involved in, double, triple, quadruple, multiple dipping is encouraged. So if you are making a sea themed item that uses old stash, then you are more than welcome to post it in my threads, Kellyanne's threads, Barbara's threads. As long as you're members of all the groups, then by all means dip away. And if you're also taking part in another make-along, if it's a shawl that's another make-along or something like that, as long as their rules don't preclude you from multiple dipping, ours certainly don't. So all welcome. The prize is, the chatter thread prize is a pattern of your choosing up to a value of $10 US. Again, at the moment that's done via Ravelry, but if alternative arrangements need to be made, that will be done. And in the finished object thread, there is a stash prize, a physical prize, yarn. So that is all lovely. So I think that's it for the make-alongs and the admin. My email address is going to be on screen here. If anyone needs to get hold of me, they can't do it through Ravelry. I'm also on Ravelry and Instagram and Twitter, but very rarely on Twitter, with the username knittingordeath. So if you want to catch up with me, those are the places to do it. Oh, that seems like a lot of admin, so let's get on with some gorgeous yarny stuff. And I'm going to start off with two finished objects, one of which could enter into the Ocean Mal because, excuse me, reaching across to get it, and the label fell on the floor. Returning viewers will know that I have a habit of everything falling on the floor. Retrieved. So the reason why it would be applicable for the Ocean Mal is because the yarn is called Coral. It's a now discontinued yarn from Patterns. Hope you can read that okay. No, that's a bit blurred. It's in the colourway Mango. I think this is discontinued now. I inherited this from a friend, and I have made with it a baby blanket. It's a reasonable size, as you can see. It's about 40 inches square, and this is the Which Way Filet blanket by Fibre Spider, and an unusual one for me in that it's not a written instruction. It's a YouTube tutorial, and I will put the link below. Really enjoyed this pattern. I think this is going to be my new go-to blanket. Rather than a granny, I'm going to do one of these because I've really enjoyed working on it. It's a very memorable pattern. It says it's you know, it's like a sort of 25-minute tutorial, and you think, oh, that sounds a bit complicated, but it's really not. It's because it goes through it in quite detailed steps, and it doesn't take long before you don't need to follow the tutorial. The pattern is straightforward. So yes, the Which Way Filet blanket in Patterns Coral, and I chose the size through a very scientific method of seeing when I was close to running out of yarn and then finishing it. All I did different, I was going to do a fancy edging but didn't. I just did a round of solid trebles, US doubles on the edge, just to finish it off. The yarn, it's an acrylic cotton blend, I think. Nearly threw it on the floor again. It is 61% cotton and 39% acrylic, and it does have a nice drape to it. It's nice and soft, and given that it's going to be a baby blanket, you can sling it in the washing machine, which I always think is to an advantage. So that is that blanket. Very happy with that. It was quite a quick make. My second finished object took a little longer. And vlog viewers, I've been doing a Corona vlog for part of this month. Vlog viewers will know the saga of this, because I started this project at the end of April, and let me just show you the picture. This is the beautiful Winterfolk by Joji Locatelli. It is available online, and it's also available in this interpretations. This is number 4. And my sister was going to make this and then decided that it wasn't for her. So I felt guilty, and she was hitting a significant birthday. I will spoil her blushes by not telling you that she was 60. And so I had a word with my niece, because I'd given her some yarn and she gave it back to me. Now, realistically, the reason why I gave her the yarn that I did is because it was the right weight, because the pattern calls for a worsted weight yarn, and I had enough. But it wasn't a machine washable yarn. The fibre type I'm not sure would have really worked that well. And as it turned out, she just wasn't getting along with it. So I then thought it might be nice to do it for her birthday. So I messaged my niece and said, would your mum really like this? If so, would she prefer it to be machine washable? And what sort of colour? And my niece came back and said, yes, she would. She also told me what size, because I had no idea what size to make. Yes, she would. Yes, machine washable, and a neutral colour, so maybe a kind of beige or a grey. So we have here my sister's Winterfolk, which I have pinned at the moment. Joji Locatelli writes the most amazing patterns, and the only flaw I ever hear about them is that the ribs kick up. And I have seen a lot of people have this problem with the boxes. They normally solve it by going down needle size. I followed the pattern exactly, so I've got this slightly pinned at the moment to help keep that flat. But yes, it is a beast of a thing. I will hopefully put some pictures here of my sister wearing it, if she allows me to. I have been calling it the beast at some point because it is a coat. It's 26 inches from armpit to ribbing, so there's a lot of it. It has these cables on the front, so the two fronts both have a cable. And there's one on the back as well. Hooded, and I am very pleased with it. I thought I was getting in a pickle over the buttons, because I thought it just had one button, and then I suddenly saw that you needed to make 2 button loops. Got these little I-cord button loops. I thought, oh. So I was rummaging around for buttons, because I have a button stash like I have a yarn stash, and I have a lot of them, but not enough matching. So I've got some almost matching ones here, and as I put the second button loop on, I thought to myself, that shouldn't be there. That should be inside here, because you've got this sort of wide, you've got the width of the cable panel as an overlap, so you have the second one inside so that it holds it neatly here and it's not sagging. So I decided to go the easy route on this, and I've just put in a press stud. Let me just, yeah, so I've just put in a little press stud there to hold that, which I hope it does. So that be that. And yeah, I'm really pleased with it. My biggest fear is that it doesn't fit her, but it should do. If my niece told me right, it should do. And they often go clothes shopping together, so she would know. And that she likes it. Because if she doesn't, it won't fit me, because she's quite a few sizes smaller. So, if by the time this podcast goes out you see me crying and auctioning this off, you'll know she doesn't like it. I'm sure she will. I'm sure she will. And she is a very knit-worthy sister. She has put up with a lot from me over the years. I'm trying to find the label now. Let me find the ball band. Yeah, so, you know, I'm an annoying younger sister, so it feels like a fair thing to do. So let me talk to you about the yarn. And I had the label here already and everything. One moment, please, caller. So the yarn is King Cole Fashion Aran. This is an Aran weight. Now, as I said earlier, it calls for a worsted weight yarn, but that's not really a UK standard. So when I started shopping for yarns, it was hard to find a worsted weight that met the other criteria of machine washable and those things. So I thought, well, this is a sister who is often a chilly person. She's someone who really feels the cold. So I thought, well, I'll go up to an Aran weight, but I actually went down a needle size to make gauge. So where the pattern says a worsted weight with a 4.5mm needle, I went to an Aran weight with a 4mm needle to get gauge. And I thought, if anything, I'd rather go for a slightly thicker yarn for warmth. The composition of the yarn is 70% acrylic, 30% wool. This is in the colourway Silver. And it's I'm a big fan of King Cole yarns. I mean, yes, we all love our hand-dyeds and our special this and special that, but if you want a good workhorse yarn, you quite often go for a King Cole. And I'm really pleased with how it's knit up. And the fact that she can sling this in the washing machine and not be precious about wearing it makes it a very worthwhile thing, I think. So it feels nice, feels a little bit woolly in a good way, and it drapes well. I'm really pleased with how this yarn has worked up. So yes, that is my second finished object, the beast. Been on the needles since 26th of April. It's now the 10th of July. That's not bad for a project that size for me. I know people knit at different rates, so some people would rattle through that in 2 days and other people would take 2 years or more. For the last month I have been working pretty exclusively on that because I had this deadline coming up of the birthday. But I really enjoyed working on it. So I'm looking out because I thought it was going to rain. Sorry. I really enjoyed working on it. The pattern, in theory, has everything in it that I don't like because the rows get bigger as you go down. It's top down, but you've got these increases to give it this slightly A-line shape. So that means the rows are getting longer, and that's the sort of thing that normally leaves me feeling rather cold. But I ploughed through. I didn't resent it in the way that, resent is a strong word, but sometimes when you're working on something you're like, well, this just finished. I didn't really feel that on this. I mean, I wanted to finish it because of the deadline, and you know, it was a bit of a slog in that sense, but at no point did I think, oh God, I don't want to make this anymore, because it was just really nice to knit. The cable panels are interesting enough to keep stop you falling asleep, but there's enough stocking stitch between to mean it's not too sloggy from that point of view. I think the fact that there aren't cables on the sleeves or the hood actually helps, because you then don't have anything that's going to slow you down when you're on these final bits. Hoods especially, they're always so much bigger than you think they're going to be. Now the hood is grafted together at the top, and I tried a slightly different mentality. I couldn't remember how to do it. Method. Couldn't remember how to do it, so I was having a quick look on YouTube and I saw a video from Wipinsanity which said grafting using knitting needles rather than sewing needles. So I had a look at that, and I've put the link in below. I thought it might even out my tension a bit, because sometimes when I graft I do pull it in tight. It's not bad. I mean, it's not perfect. That should be invisible. It's not, but it's not too bad. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting way of approaching it. Basically, it's like sewing it, but you pull the yarn all the way through. But there is something about the fact that you're using knitting needles, it kind of makes it more logical to go knitwise or purlwise. It just kind of flows better. So that is my Winterfolk. And as I'm recording this, by this time tomorrow, my sister will be in receipt of it. And hopefully be happy. If she's not happy, I certainly won't be. But yeah, really pleased with how it's turned out. And now I can carry on with some other things, which is nice too. I forgot to tell you how much of the yarn I used. I'd bought 13 balls. I made the large size, designed to have a few inches ease. So I made the large size. Bought 13 balls of the yarn, and I have about 3.5 left. So someone might get a matching scarf for Christmas. Yeah, so it came out at about 1800 metres, I think, which for a jacket that size seems pretty good. But I'm used to making things bigger, so I'm used to using more yarn. But yeah, about 1800 metres for the large. Cheers. Hello lovelies. In my capacity as your local resident genius, I have 2 finished objects to talk about, neither of which I have here, because I was so excited about finishing them that I sent them in the post before I talked about them for the podcast. Sorry. One of them you'll have seen if you watched the daily vlog. The other you won't, because it was a big surprise, and that person it was a surprise for watches the vlog, so I didn't want to spoil anything. So I'll tell you about them. They are both for my lovely friend Lynn, who is getting married on a beach. So excited for it. It's going to be such a lovely time. She asked for a little purse, little pochette, a little reticule, and she had the sort of thing in mind, and luckily we had the same idea, and I managed to find this lovely pattern, which is the Bridal Keepsake bag, and I haven't written down who the designer is, but I'll put it in the notes as well as a link to the pattern. And it just seemed to fit the bill perfectly. Now, this yarn that I used, it's a little crochet bag, very quick make, is the Women's Institute Soft and Silky, which was part of the inheritance from my friend a couple of years ago. And the lady who's getting married was also a good friend of that friend, so it felt really just right to be able to make something from that yarn for her to have on her big day. So yeah, and she's really pleased with it, so that's good. Now that yarn, the Soft and Silky, it's listed as a fingering or a 4-ply weight. It's actually quite a lot thicker than that, and it's only 270 metres for 100 grams, which is more a sport weight at least, I would say. But it does live up to its name of soft and silky. It feels really nice, really soft and silky. It is well named. So that's item number 1 of the finished object. The other one, the one which was a surprise, was a pair of gloves. We'd had a joke on our WhatsApp group about long gloves, because my friend, she's making a shawl and she's got this beautiful dress being made, but we were saying, if it's a bit chilly on the beach, will she need long gloves? And someone else looked for long gloves and only found vet gloves, you know, the plastic ones that they use for insertion. So so as soon as we had that conversation, I thought to myself, Lynn needs a pair of long gloves. And I knew I had the perfect yarn. Now this is some yarn that was very kindly given to me by Benta of Arctic Crafts by Benta. And it's her Himmel and Halve colourway, which I think she said is Norwegian for sea and sky. I hope I've got that right and pronounced it right. So thank you again for that yarn, Benta. It's absolutely beautiful. It's her Corriedale sock. And it's just lovely. I'll put a picture here of the gloves. And what I did, I based the design on the cold-blooded fingerless gloves pattern. Again, it's a crochet pattern. It's free. I'll put the link down below. By Selena Schattauer. Apologies that my pronunciation is wrong. It looks sort of Germanic, and it's not a language I know, so it'll be linked so you can see the pattern. Now, the original pattern is for a pair of straight fingerless long mitts. The idea being that you try them on and adjust them as you go. Now, my friend lives some distance from me, and it was a surprise. So I was thinking, how do I make this work? Because what would fit me is probably too big for her. And because of the crochet stitches being used, there isn't much elasticity in them. When I've done long gloves knitted before, then I've put a rib into them to give them a little bit of a stretch. But this wasn't the case. And then I thought, corset them. So you start here in this pattern. So when I got down to just beyond the wrist, I then just started working flat, still increasing to make it bigger to allow for the increase in the arm, but worked flat and then threaded a ribbon to corset them here. So that way they are adjustable. Ta-da! So yes, that pattern is there. It's on Ravelry. I mean, obviously I made huge modifications to it, but it was a really useful starting point for the sizing for the hand and to get the wrist shaping and the shaping here, and then I just adjusted for the arm length. So those are the two patterns that I've done. 2 more FOs. Who can believe it? After last month doing not much, I've sort of caught up with myself a bit, so that's great. I've also been given some yarn, and you're going to hear a crinkly rattling of bags in a moment, because the wonderful George, who is a viewer, got in touch and said she wanted to send me something, so thank you very much. She's also given me 2 books which I have put away, so I need to get out again to show you, but I will show you the yarn now. And knowing that I have a bit of a thing for Noro, she gave me some yarn and a lot of yarn. So this is Noro Kiso, which is a bulky weight yarn, and it is 70% wool, 15% alpaca and 15% silk, and it feels lovely. And Noro softens on wash and usage, but this is already lovely and soft. And you can see it's a sort of pale blue with all these lovely colours in them. And she's given me a whole bag. So thank you again, George, you're just an absolute star. But as if that wasn't enough, she's given me another colourway. Now, George has started to make something. This really lovely cardigan. and then she decided she didn't want to carry on with it, so she stopped. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to frog this, which feels like a shame after all her hard work, or whether I'm going to carry on with it. Oh bless her, she's even left some stitch markers in. So yes, there is enough yarn to do a lot with, whatever I decide to do. So, Stash Acquisition, thy name is Les. Now let me find those books and I will show them to you as well. So there were two books that George very kindly sent me. The first is Bloomsbury Collection 9 by Marie Wallin, and just an assortment of beautiful colourwork patterns. Really lovely, intricate designs. The one that caught my eye is actually, oh, that one's got a lace pattern in, is one called Angelica, and let me just find it, and it's quite subtle. Oh, actually I said they were colourwork patterns, not exclusively. Look at that, just gorgeous. But no, Angelica really caught my eye, and it's very subtle. But that, just that two colours working together in the same colour palette, I just was really taken by that. So I see colour work in my future. The other book she gave me is Knitting Norrow by Jane Ellison, and just a collection of patterns to really make the most of Norrow yarn. George, thank you. We've already had conversations, so I'm not going to go on and on, but thank you so much. And, oh, what such loveliness. Now, another new thing I've been playing with this month, because we know I love a toy and a gadget, is a blending board. So this is for blending fibre colours together and different textures to make rolags. I will put a link to the daily vlog where I showed you me using it. You saw my first ever attempt at it and then spinning up the yarn. I had some white and 4 different colours from World of Wool, and here's my first bit of spinning from that. Really interesting just to kind of blend things together and to see how you can get very different things from the same colours. So the first one that I made was kind of relatively sort of just stripy. I've then tried a couple of different things which I haven't rolled yet, but here are the rolags. I haven't spun yet, but here are the rolags. So this one, I put white on the blending board first and then added colours. So we can see that as I spin it, I expect to have a fair amount of white in amongst the colours. All of these are likely to go with the alpaca that I'm spinning from my fleece. And then this one, I just did as more of a gradient. So you can see clearly the colours I've got. And as I spin these, we should have bigger blocks of colour. So I'm just playing at the moment. These aren't the neatest of rolags, probably because for these two I actually took everything I had on the board off in one rolag, whereas a lot of people, they'll take smaller, neater amounts. So that's an option. And of course, if you're doing that, you could then have more stripes as you spin, because you'll have thinner of these, so you'll have the colours and then you'll repeat them, and then you'll repeat them as you spin each rolag. So lots of different opportunities for play there. And that's some fun I'm going to have. It's another rabbit hole, isn't it? Craft always brings you another rabbit hole to go down. Oh dear, how sad, never mind. Well, this is the second of the rolags that I made, spun up. So that's spun into a single ply. This is the one where I had white all over the board and then added the colours. So you can see we've got a bit of white in amongst the green and sort of bits of white. The next one I've got to spin is the one where I attempted a gradient. So we'll see how that goes as and when. Hello lovelies. Now people who've known me for a while will know that I love a gadget. And I'm not particularly discerning, I just love toys and novelties. Essentially I'm 12, I think that's, if we take that as our baseline, we're about right. And inspired by Aquila of the Lefty Knitter podcast, and I will link her down below, excuse me, she received as a birthday gift an Addy Express king size knitting mill or knitting machine or however you want to call it. And I've been looking at these for a while, and you're then stuck with this dilemma of, do I go for the really good make, which is the Addy? They, you know, I think they are probably the best in the market in terms of reliability, build quality, all of those things. But you pay for the higher quality. So do I go for that, or do I go for a cheap bit of plastic from China? And you can see here my decision was made. I made this decision after watching Margaret Olander, who was a new to me podcaster, but she's good. She's a good old girl, I think. She certainly knows her stuff about these machines. Very comprehensive review of a number of different ones, from the cheapest to the most expensive. So I decided to go for this, which I bought from eBay. I can't give you a manufacturer's name because you'll see a lot of all different names, but they are basically this machine and with this sort of decoration on the front. So this was the one that I went for, and I've been pretty pleased with it. There is a limit to what it can do. It has 40 needles. You can do tubes, you can do straight. The straight, I think it loses however many needles each size, so it's like 36 needles each straight. And it only works to one tension, it only works to one gauge. So the only thing that's going to affect your gauge is the yarn that you use, the thickness, but there's a limit to how much that difference that will make. So you might think, well, what on earth did you buy that for, Leslie? To make hats. Because I wanted to have a nice quick way of making my homeless hats. So Bert here is demonstrating one that I made. So this is some generic acrylic double knitting weight yarn. This more bluey grey was a little ball of yarn that came with the machine. There were 3 different cool little balls of yarn, kind of this size, that came with the machine. And the other was some generic DK that I had in the stash. And so in about 20 minutes I'd made a hat. And all I did was make a long tube, then gather the 2 ends together and fold one inside the other. And this is, I think, a reasonable hat. It'll be a nice warm hat because it's double layered. It'll be a nice warm hat for someone who needs it this year. So I like it. I like my new machine because it's new and because it's a toy. Now, some people have greater flexibility depending on the machine you use, and Jimmy Knits, Jimenez Joseph, actually has some patterns using the Addy king size, and there's a sweater pattern, so you make panels and then join them together. I haven't got involved in that sort of thing yet. I'm just trying to fight Bert. Put your hat back on, Bert. Insubordination amongst the staff, I don't know. Yeah, so Jimenez Joseph has some patterns using the Addy king size. The one of the big advantages of the Addy and one or two of the other makes of this machine is they have a row counter. Excuse me while I just wrestle Bert to the ground, won't you? Oh, well, you're not folded straight, are you? Yes, they have a row counter, so if you wanted to do panels and it's important that they're the same length, that's a very useful feature. I don't have a row counter on this machine, but somewhere I have a little clicky row counter, one of those ones, sort of lanyard type ones. I got it free with a magazine. It's not the type of row counter that I use when I'm hand knitting, so I use the little barrel ones where you twist the numbers round. So something like that, as I'm cranking each round, just kind of click it. That would work, I think. Certainly for these hats, it's not essential, but if you were making panels to put together for a blanket or a garment, then that would be a very useful feature to have. Like I say, they are extremely limited. There's not a lot of subtlety about them, but for this, for anything that you can make from a tube, it's fun and quick. Like I say, this hat took me 20 minutes. Right now it looks like it, but this hat took me 20 minutes. And Aquila also made a nice cowl. And you can go for the really long ones that you wrap around several times, or just a short tube cowl. So this is my latest toy. So homeless hats this year will be made on the machine in the hope that they keep some folks warm. And that's my latest toy. I'll put a little bit of footage of it working so you can see it in operation. But yeah, it's just a bit of fun. I have been tempted, now that I've had a go on this, to think, oh, shall I get an Addy? And I stopped myself from getting a second-hand one because I thought, no, I don't know how much I'm going to use this. So I think I need to see if the novelty wears off first, or at what point the novelty wears off, because it's bound to, and we'll go from there. Cheers. Hello lovelies, going to run you through some works in progress. Because I finished a large item, obviously I then had to cast on a lot of things. That's what all crafters do, isn't it? I thought so. Is it just me? Some things I've done more progress, I've made more progress than on others, and some things are just new, so that's exciting. So the first thing I will show you is probably one where I haven't done much at all. This is the Stillness by Elizabeth Sullivan. The marker, the Chevy Rail marker, shows where I was before, and so that's as much as I've done. This is the piece that I work on while I'm checking ceremonies, and as I've just had a week off, I haven't checked many ceremonies, so more work will be done on this during the month, we assume, / hope. Now, I was given an Attic 24 kit. The summer ripple blanket. Hadn't started it yet. I was thinking probably more of an autumn or winter project, because by the time it gets bigger and it's sitting on your lap, that's not a summer project. But the friend who bought me the kit was also working on one, and she was just struggling to get started. Some bits weren't quite working out for her, so I said we'd start it together. And she's carrying on with hers. I've started, but that's as far as I've got. So I've got 2 of the colours so far, and started the 3rd. And this is in King Cole Cotton Soft, and my goodness, it is. This is so lovely to feel. Really, really nice. I'm going to seem like an advert for King Cole, I think, because I do really like King Cole and James C. Brett, really good commercial yarns in the UK. And that has made me think of a subject that's come up just recently about the affordability of knitting. And I am also someone who's been quite dismissive of acrylic yarns in the past, for no real reason. I think we all get caught up in this, not we all, but some of us can get caught up in this feeling of got to have the nice yarns, and that's not an option for everyone for lots of reasons. I mean, indie dyed yarns are expensive because they're an artisan product, and it's the same. You pay more for an artisan loaf of bread than you do for a commercially produced one. And I've got something on my glasses. There we go. So I hope I'm not dismissive of acrylic and other yarns in the future. I'll talk about them. I'll talk about the properties that they have. But as someone who goes for the feel of yarns, and I'm not someone who's terribly keen on really toothy, woolly yarns, I would rather have a soft acrylic than an itchy wool, because that's my personal choice. Some of the things I've been reading recently suggest that people are being made to feel as if they're kind of less than knitters if they're using big box, commercial, inexpensive yarns. And I commented on someone else's post somewhere, and I said, to me, a knitter is someone who makes something with needles and yarn, and a crocheter is someone who makes something with a hook and yarn. And it doesn't matter if that yarn is from the underbelly of a yak or from Poundland, they're still knitting. And if people want to get sniffy about it, they can go somewhere else and do that, because that's not what knitting's about. Well, not to me. Obviously, this is The World According to Les. That's what this podcast should really be called. So. Now, with that in mind, I have been making another thing on my whirly whirly circular machine, and I have made a cowl. And I say with that in mind because this is made with Red Heart Super Saver. And this is some yarn that himself brought back when he visited the States last year. And where he was going, there were no local yarn shops. But I was keen on him to get stuff that I can't get in the UK. So I said, right, go to Walmart, get me some yarn. Oh, excuse me. And he did. So this is some Red Heart Super Saver stripes in the, unsurprisingly, bright stripe colourway. And I used it on the whirly whirly machine, which is obviously what my circular knitting machine is now called, and produced this cowl. Now, not all of the knitting was terribly even, as you can see. It caught a few times, and sort of I had some unintentional tuck stitches. But generally, it's come out pretty well. I will put a link in the notes below for a YouTube video which shows how to do this particular join. She called it a W join. And I rather like the way it looks. So that's that. I didn't use all of the skein because I wanted to finish off in the same sort of... It's blowing out the camera, it's so bright. I wanted to finish off in the yellows and greens to give a more kind of cohesive circle. So I have a little bit of the yarn left. So that will get used in something else. So those of you who watch from the US will know Red Heart Super Saver. I understand for many people it's kind of the first yarn they knit with as a let's try this out kind of yarn. It's a worsted weight. Now, my biggest disappointment with it was the fact that there was a knot in it, so it threw out the colour sequence. But as that falls at the back of the cowl, I'm not going to worry. So that was a bit disappointing, but we'll live. As acrylics go, it's certainly not the softest. You do feel that it will squeak when wet. I have a cardigan that I've been wearing for about 20 years, which squeaks when wet, but it's great. I still wear it. I pull it out every winter. So yeah, so I know I'm sort of telling you stuff you all know with good old Red Heart, but there it is. And I really love the way acrylic takes colour, because it can go so bright. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, that was a cowl. So I just made a tube, sewed it together. I mean, the sewing is not at all neat, but that's hidden, so that's fine. So I might be making a few more of these from different yarns. I do have some more Red Heart, but I think I'll probably use those for blankets or something like that. But I will make some more of these because I quite like the way it's gone. So that be that. The next project is something that I showed you before. Now these were pieces that I had made on the machine, and being a pro I'm halfway through a round, but these rounds are pretty good, pretty large. And this was some King Cole merino. I had a cone of it, so I did all the pieces, and then the yoke I'm doing in some hand dyed. Oh, excuse me, I've just walked the dog and obviously the damp's got in my throat today. So this is some hand dyed from, I can't remember who. It'll be in the notes. There should be a yarn company called It'll Be on the Notes, because every podcaster will want to buy their yarn. Little business tip for you there. So, so yeah, these are the pieces. Now I had started to put them together and started to knit the yoke, and then it occurred to me that I had a couple of pieces floating around, and I thought, they're the sleeves. I'm going to really need those. I'm not making a cape. So I had to unpick the knitting that I'd done, which is why this, which was a cake, now looks more like a ball, and start again with these enormous rounds. The reason why this is enormous is that I'd initially started making some pieces in a finer yarn. The machine started eating them, so I moved up to a bigger yarn, but I was still making the same size pieces. So this is going to have a waterfall front. It'll be a round yoke cardigan with a waterfall front, and this looks like nothing at the moment, but it will be something one day. So that's the next work in progress. So quite a bit has been done, because quite a bit was unpicked, because obviously I thought I didn't need sleeves. Quite what I thought I was knitting with, I don't know. Now, because I have finished Cindy's jacket, coatigan, beast, I am able to start the Rocket Tea by Tanis Lovely, which I was very kindly given. Let me see if I can find a better picture. Oh, there it is. So there you go. I print everything off in black and white, so I hope you can see that. So this is the Rocket Tea. I was very kindly given the pattern and some yarn, and I have started. I haven't got terribly far so far, but I have started. So I haven't even joined up for the bottom of the V yet, but we are working. Now what I did, this is all beautiful sort of sea colours, and it occurred to me that I also had some of the Himalayan halve left over from the Arctic Crafts yarn that I use for my friend's gloves. So my first stripe is in that. I've then put in a stripe of this beautiful Suri alpaca from the Fibre Fox, which is just an absolute cloud. It's beautiful. I'm now working on a stripe from Ted Knits, and in the pattern the sample was made with even stripes. I think she said it's like 8 rows each. Obviously I'm not doing that. What did I do that for? I will have consistent stripes, but then they're not going to be even all the way down. So that's what I've got so far. I was going through the stash cupboard earlier, and I have some teal lace weight, which I will probably hold together for a stripe as well. So yes, this is the Rocket Tea by Tanis Lavallee. Lavallee, sorry, there's an accent over the E. Maybe it's Lavallee. Tanis. Is it Tanis? Oh no, that sounds too close to another word altogether. But it's a simple raglan top-down tee with I-cord edging, and it has open work increases for the raglan. Oh, would be if I could show them. There we go. And I'm very pleased with how it's coming along, so I shall continue with this, with grateful thanks to the person who provided the yarn and the pattern. You know who you are, so thank you. So those are the works in progress at the moment. I have one more, which I will record tomorrow. As I'm recording this, it's Saturday early evening. Himself is downstairs cooking a fish curry and some kind of dumplings, so we're having a bit of a fusion meal tonight. I don't mind, it's fine, it's okay. Smells pretty good in the kitchen. Looks like a building site, but it smells pretty good. So can always clean it up, can always cover it up. So yeah, that is so that's Saturday evening. I have another item to show you tomorrow when I wrap everything up. As it stands right now, I have an unclaimed prize for the giveaway, and although it's the 25th in the UK, I want to make sure that it's the 25th, because that was my deadline elsewhere. So that will I'll finish off tomorrow and redraw as appropriate if it's not claimed by the morning here. I was going to say something and I've forgotten. Don't you hate it when that happens? It was the drawer. You could hear the cogs ticking then, couldn't you? The problems that a lot of people have had with Ravelry have not yet been fully addressed. Some people can use it with the return to, you know, clicking the switch to turn it back to the classic view. That's enough for a number of users. There are some that can't even get that far because you have to go into new to get to old. And there are some users who just can't use it at all. I really don't know what to do about the chatter thread of the makealongs. Now, with the finished objects, my suggestion is, if this is acceptable to you, that you just email me pictures of the finished objects as you finish them. I'll put the email address again here. It's also in the notes. I hope that will work from that point of view. I promise not to use the email for any spam, because I wouldn't know how to for a start, but all that will be is you just let me have the picture so that I can see the finished object. I really don't know what to do about the chatter thread. Now, from the contact I've had, I don't anticipate it being a problem for anyone who's wanting to take part in the make-along, because, you know, Ravelry has 9 million users. We are not 9 million people in this corner of the internet, so I don't anticipate it being a significant problem for anyone. But if it is, please do contact me. I don't want to kind of give up trying because it's not affecting people. If it is affecting you, please contact me and we will find a workaround. So as I say, at the moment, if you have a finished object that you would like to be included in the make-along, but you're unable to use Ravelry in its current format, please email a picture of the finished item to me. I will include you in the draw. And if you have suggestions of an effective way to have the chatter thread going in addition to Ravelry, I would be interested in that. I'm a bit reluctant to use something that people have to sign up to. I know Instagram is being used for a lot of make-alongs. That's great, but not everyone has Instagram. In theory, I could start a Not Quite Enough Yarn Facebook group, but not everyone has Facebook, and I don't want people to have to sign up to something and to have to go into it as an extra if it's going to be a faff, extra work, extra time thing for them. So I'm reluctant to go down those routes, but if they're the best route for it, then that's what we'll do. That, you know, it's not a problem, but I don't want to inconvenience people just to take part in a draw. You know, that's what it comes down to. So let me know if you have any brilliant ideas, because I have been very impressed by the Not Quite Enough Yarn hive mind this year, as you know, so thank you for thoughts and suggestions from you lovelies. And yeah, I will either be able to confirm that the prize has been claimed in the morning, or I will redraw it if need be. So tomorrow I will record the last bit and wind this thing up for the month. Cheers. Hello lovelies, it's Sunday morning. The prize has not yet been claimed, so I've redrawn it. So this is the pattern prize from the Ocean Mal for Q2, and the redrawn winner is number 38, username Rick Rack, and that's Paula from South Yorkshire, who posted a picture of the nifty needle case that she made in blue scraps. So thank you, Paula. Please do get in touch, Ravelry, email, YouTube, Instagram, however you want to get hold of me. Give me a shout and we'll sort out getting to you a pattern of your choice. Thank you for taking part. So we're nearly at the end of the month. I will show you my last FO. No, not FO, WIP. Wishful thinking there. And this is something that I've probably been working on the most. It's not entirely done, but let me put it on anyway. When you last saw this, it had a different sleeve. I reworked the sleeve, and in fact it's a little bit tight. My reason for doing that is this is merino, so it's likely to grow a little. So this is my Liz Vierke cardigan. The first half was done last time you saw it. Like I say, I've redone the sleeve to make it more tapered. It's a little bit flappy. I don't do flappy. So I had half done plus the sleeve, and I now have this much done of the other side. All of the yarns are listed below. This is possibly the most extravagant thing I've ever made because it's all hand-dyed yarn. I was very fortunate earlier in the year that I was able to support some indie dyers who were missing out on festivals and yarn shows and that sort of thing. And I went super bright. Let me just move that down a little bit, perhaps stand up. So we've got some super brights in here. Now, as you can see, this and this don't match. This and this don't match. But I've gone with the grey and brights and the bright and brights. I split the black and bright in half to match at the front. So I have the rest of the other side and the other sleeve to do, and that will be done. I'm really enjoying this pattern. When I first went back to it, it seemed really slow, whereas when I was working on it before, it seemed a really quick grower. But I think I've got used to it again, and it's kind of speeding up now. So I really like it. I will be making another of these. I have some, I think it's Serda Swirl, but it's in a black and grey that I'm probably going to use as the bulk of one of these with some black. Now that's a double knit weight, so I need to be aware of the drape. I'm really warm, so I'm going to take this off. I love the drape of this in the 4-ply or fingering weight. I don't know how it's going to be in a double knit. So that's something I'm just going to have to try. So I've got yarn all over the place here. that's something I'm going to have to try and see how it goes. The yarn, where I put it on, has actually gone over my head, round across my feet. There we go. Yeah, so I'd like to make another one of those and use this grey and black yarn that I've got, but I'll have to see how it feels. If it doesn't suit the pattern, then I'll find another pattern for the yarn. So, excuse the wet hair, it is Sunday morning. My eldest sister, the one I made the coat for, is a nurse, but her first job was as a hairdresser. And she came to see me last Friday. If you've been watching the vlog, you'll know this. She came to see me last Friday and she brought her scissors and cut my hair. Thank you, Cindy. So I'd previously said that I was going to stop the daily vlogs once I'd had my hair cut, because that felt like a return to normality. So I've gone to weekly. So if you are interested in life, the universe and everything, I do a weekly vlog, which I'm putting up on a Friday. I've only done one so far, but I'm putting up on a Friday. And yeah, it's about should be under 20 minutes long, so not too long, but if you're interested. If you're not, I completely understand. I will sometimes on that show things I've made, but the details will be on this monthly podcast. So we're at the end of July, in the weirdest year ever. Hope your month has been okay. I know in a lot of places of the world, COVID seemed to be less of a problem, then the numbers grew again, and it's just all a bit terrifying. It's really weird from a work point of view, sorting out whether I go and meet families or whether I do it by phone or online meeting. So yes, that's all a bit odd. I am just about beginning to get fed up with not being able to go out much. Now this is possibly partly because I have been going out to work, so I have been seeing people that I work with, funeral directors, pallbearers. You know, I have had that contact, people who work at the crematoria. I'm just now getting to the I would like to do something else stage. But all the time I have crafting, it's not boredom, it's just variety, if you see what I mean. I have been listening to a lot of books, and they're quite a mixed bag actually. Just going through a few. I'm an audiobook person, so the last few books I've listened to, just if you're interested, one is London Falling by Paul Cornell, and that was a thriller. It was quite good, I enjoyed it. A viewpoint kept changing mid-paragraph, which wasn't easy when you're listening, but it was okay. We're All Completely Beside Ourselves by Karen Joy Fowler, which is a novel. Supposedly it's about family and relationships. It was okay. It was okay. A book that I enjoyed very much was The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Doidge. I have a bit of a thing for neuroscience, and this is all about neuroplasticity and our ability to change our brains. And it was fascinating, and we kind of know this stuff. You know, you meet people who are have, say, sight problems or are completely blind, and they have more sensitive hearing or highly developed touch. Well, this is about how that works in the brain. And other, you know, that was sort of one area of it, but really very interesting. My Name is Why, the autobiography of Lem Sissay, who's a poet. Yeah, so a bit of a variety. It's interesting because I've probably said this before, but when I used to read physical books, I nearly always read fiction. With audiobooks, I tend to broaden my types of book. Now, whether that would have happened anyway, or whether it's because I see them available to read and I think, oh, that looks interesting, I don't know. But yeah, there's a few audiobooks I've listened to in the last month and a half. And just one other thing, whilst I'm in this space, which is where I do a lot of my crafting, this is in our sitting room, so if the TV's on, well, to be honest, if the TV's on for the last few weeks, it's been football every night. So I haven't been watching that. I've been listening to audiobooks or watching podcasts or catching up on stuff on catch-up TV. But this is where I do a lot of my crafting. And I don't think I've yet shown you my dusty but gorgeous notions box. Now I picked this up for a song it was a craft fair, but there was someone there with some second-hand items. And this beaut was initially made to display wristwatches for sale. And it is wonderful because I can keep all my stitch markers, my clips, row counters, needles. The whole kit and caboodle is here. And it has a drawer, which is caught, in which I keep stitch holders, cable needles, and all those sorts of things. So I picked this up, I think it cost me £10, and I couldn't be more delighted with it. Because I used to have them in little plastic drawer units, which was useful but not very pretty, whereas this just looks nice as well. It's a nice piece of wood, very well made piece, and yeah, just picked it up for a song. So I do like to repurpose things where I can. Well, we're heading into August, traditionally the time when people go on their holidays and disappear off to the Mediterranean or the Caribbean, or, you know, wherever people go on their holidays, Fiji, depending on which part of the world you start from. Don't think many people are doing that this year. I know I'm not. I hope you do get some relaxation time, even if you're not having the break in the sun, or the city break, or the sightseeing, or the whatever trip you would normally have. I hope you still get some time to relax, to switch off from the daily stuff, to switch off from the news, and just are able to just have a little break. Whether that's losing yourself in your crafting, a good book, a good film, whatever it takes, I hope that works for you. Nothing exciting planned here, so just more of the same. From a crafting point of view, I'd really like to finish that Liz Virka pretty soon. It feels like it's on the home stretch, so I'm hoping that will be done soon. And then on to some of the other projects. Would make sense to crack on with the tea whilst we're still in summer, but we'll see how the muse takes me. Whatever you're doing, I hope you have a good month. Thank you for being here. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks to those who've liked, subscribed, clicked buttons and stuff. Do please feel free to comment, to say hi, to tell me what you're up to. It's lovely to be part of this community, and I think at the moment we're all grateful for the communities where we find them, so thank you for being part of this one. Take care everyone, keep safe, have a good month. If you watch the vlog, I'll see you on Friday. If you watch the podcast, I'll see you at the end of August. Take care and thank you. Bye bye.